Yo, what's up, all you burners, stoners, and potheads? This is Weedman 420 with the Weedman 420 Chronicles. How are all you vipers doing out there, Mrs. Weedman?
Mr. Weedman.
How the hell are you?
I'm stuffy. My nose is really stuffy. I'm not stuffy like a snob. Or am I? I'm not stuffy.
You're not stuffy. You're not stuffy at all.
I'm congested.
You're a little congested. Hey, everybody out there in the world. Hopefully you're smoking some big fat doinks while you're listening to the show, and we're about to get normal.
Yeah.
Mrs. Weeman, light that joint of yeet, yeet, yeet.
You don't have to say that twice.
We are smoking yeet. We've been smoking this the last all weekend, actually. Mrs. Weeman and I stuffed 6 joints, and we have been smoking this every day. I love it. Smoked it on the show last night with Big Earl for the Grow Hour. It has developed into a very, really nice tasting strain. It cured the best I could say I've ever cured, and probably the best tasting bud I've grown. It is amazing. The smell is so piney, but also yet so lemony. This was Yeet by Umami Seed Company, and it is phenomenal. I have enjoyed this strain. I enjoyed the grow of it. I enjoyed everything about this strain, even though it gave me a little bit of trouble here and there during the grow, but it was all worth it because this is a phenomenal, beautiful, terpy strain. And as Umami says on all of his posts, flavor over everything. And he was exactly right about this strain. Flavor over everything.
It's tasty. And we smoked it in the... if you have not tried one before, a Dynavap vaporizer. There's other vaporizers on the market as well, but this one is pretty sweet. And the Dynavap, you're just getting the vapor. So you're heating the flower and you're smoking it. It looks like a one-hitter, and you're not getting all the carcinogens of lit, on fire weed. And it really gives you the flavor profile. And Mr. Weedman handed me the Dynavap. I hit it, and I was like, hello, pinene, El pinene. It was super piney, and then it was the limonene, I think was the secondary flavor. Yeah. And so if you really want to explore the taste of cannabis and really get to know the flavor of your strains, pick up a vaporizer because it's a game changer.
Come smoke Yeet with Mr. and Mrs. Weedman.
I love a joint, but I'll tell you, experiencing the vape
flavor, yeah. It's a great way to smoke. Yeah. And what made the experience even better with the Dynavap is that little wand thing they gave us.
Oh, they have now they have an ancillary tool. It is a induction heater, so you don't have to hold a torch over it. You just pop it into the little induction heater and it clicks and it's ready to consume.
It's ready to go.
No brain. I like the no brain work game. I like smart tools. Yeah. They make life easier.
Yes.
And it's good.
Yeah,
this is great.
Yeah, it's a great strain. I have 5 seeds left of that. 5 seeds left of that. So and I can't wait to grow it again. I'm not growing it probably for a while. I was talking with Big Girl yesterday on the Grow Hour, and we were talking about variety is the key and mixing up your strains. And I have not grown the same strain twice because I believe in variety, and I believe that it does help. You never get stuck. If you keep on smoking the same strain, I think it does kind of wind down a little bit. And you don't get the same effects after a while.
Well, it's fun to experience different profiles.
Yeah, and if you're somebody that uses it for medication, we talked about this yesterday, and you need those certain terpenes and the certain cannabinoids that are in that strain, there are other strains out there that have that. So sometimes you just got to search and find and read and research. So don't forget, don't get stuck on that one strain syndrome. It's fun to taste different stuff and to try different stuff and explore. If you're in a state that doesn't have, variety, and you still get your stuff from a plug and you're in the traditional market still, find some different plugs. I guess it may have different strains. I don't know. But I enjoy this strain. I have actually just germinated my seeds. They were in the shot glass for 48 hours. They all 3 cracked, and I'm super stoked. And I just put them in the paper towel to fully germinate. And for the next 72 hours, 48 to 72 hours, depending on how they look when they pop open and the little stems start coming, the little roots start coming out. So, but I'm super stoked because this is a Big Earl strain. It is a Landry strain. I'm super stoked with a haze, chilled wine haze Landry strain. I'm stoked to grow this. It's a more of a sativa vibe plant, so it's gonna be something totally different for me. I haven't grown a sativa plant since Majin and Vegeta, and we all know how that went. That was amazing, but it fucking outgrew the tent. So I'm super stoked though to grow a Big Girl, and I'm using Big Girl's nutrient line too on this grow. So I'm very excited for that, and it's simple, which I love. It's 2 containers, one being a white clear big container, and the other one being a brownish color container. It's all the instructions are there, so I'm super stoked. I'm using his genetics and his nutrient line, so it's basically I'm being a tester for him. So I'm stoked, my buddy Big Girl. So I'm happy that we're doing it, and Mrs. Weedman I know will help me with this grow too, because it's outdoors done for the year, and we go into the indoor now. So, and I think this is a time for Mrs. Weedman to start learning indoor grow, so she gets better at her outdoor grow. You know,
Totally.
So that being said, we're watching Suits.
Yep.
Yeah, it is good. It is crazy what's going on right now in season 3, episode 4 we watched last night. And Harvey is not the man that we saw in the first 2 seasons. He actually looks like he's about to fall apart.
He's getting challenged.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah. And you know, I don't want to spoil anything what happened to get to this point there, but I'm seeing a different side of him.
Yeah.
Something that I never thought I'd see. So, but interesting. What do you think, Mrs. Weedman?
I don't know about a different side of him. I think that his character is just evolving, and he's going through some shit in his career, and he's trying to maintain and get ahead and come out on top. I get it. What do you think changed about him? I'm going to defend Harvey because he's great.
I'm not. I think he's great too. I just don't think he's off his game a little bit because he got challenged.
He's rattled.
Yes, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
he's off his game a little bit. Yeah. Thank God he brought Mike back in.
Yeah. That's great.
But it's very interesting. This season so far. So season 3.
Well, and in spite of that, our friend, we have a very longtime friend, a couple, and they have children, and we won't say names.
I can say his name.
Well, we don't want to say his name because of his
not
career.
his real name. Shitty.
Yeah,
his nickname is Shitty.
And that's a joke.
That is actually his nickname. His buddies from law school have called him that. So Shitty, I love you.
Yeah. So he's a federal drug and murder prosecutor. And so he sees the shit, man. He's trying to put these guys in jail, right? And they've done some bad stuff. So we were talking laws and crimes, and here he is visiting us, and we've got jars of weed all over the place. He's a federal employee. He's like, shit, keep that stuff away from me.
Yeah, we hung out. He wanted to smoke.
He's like, it looks great. I'd love to, but hell no.
Yeah, they still drug test in the federal system. So unfortunately,
but we had some fun conversations just about
the law,
and just a different perspective of it. He doesn't beat down.
He's never said anything once about. All he says is, "I can't wait to retire so I can smoke weed again."
Yeah,
that's what he says.
I mean, he's putting people away for we're talking about violent drug dealers,
violent crime, mostly.
Violent crime. He deals with
heavy murders.
Yeah, cartels and things like that. He's dealing with the top guys.
Yeah. So Shitty, I loved hanging with you. I cannot wait till it goes federally legal one day, so then I can get you baked.
And his wife.
Yes.
We'll all have fun.
Yes, we'll all
Hang
have
out,
fun.
We'll eat some pizza.
Yep. We did
fun.
eat Phil's this weekend.
We had this local old time pizza joint. It's a takeout only.
Too far away for delivery. Always too far away for us to go pick it up.
Not in an area that we go to very frequently. It's it's just not. It's not a convenient place. It's not some place we pass in our work days.
Nothing.
It's just off the.
But the place been around forever.
Yeah, it's been around forever, and people who love it love it. So we're like, let's let Shitty really wanted pizza from there, and then I was like, yeah, let's. It feels so weird calling him Shitty. And it was good.
I went and picked it up, and they will do it half cooked.
Yeah,
and then you bring it home and you finish it, and that was the way to do it. And Mrs. Weedman put that oven. They give you the instructions on how to do it too.
I had my pizza stone in the oven. I had the oven at 400. Had it all ready, so it was nice and toasty. and then drop the pizza right onto that hot pizza stone, and it came out like fresh out of the
It was
oven at a restaurant.
great, and they'll do that
It
for
was
you
so
too.
good.
And it was probably one of the cheapest priced pizzas
Yeah.
that I bought in a while. Not cheaply made,
No.
cheap in price. I've got a large pizza that fed 4 of us,
Yeah, it was big, 16-inch.
16-inch, and it was like what, $24?
No, it was like 20,
$6
just shy of $27.
$27
with,
bucks for two
two
toppings. Yeah,
on half.
on half.
So really one topping.
So
right?
it was really good. I give it up to Phil's. Thanks, Shitty, for the recommendation on
Yeah.
that. So if you're ever in that area, go get half. You can get the full. It just depends how far you live. We live far. The pizza would have got cold. So half cooked, perfect. Phil's, we love you. You earned a new pizza
Yep, new
Zaza
fans.
fan.
Pizza, Zaza.
Yeah, it's only takeout too. There's no tables to eat in, and there was like 10 delivery drivers just cranking, running it out, running it out, running it out. It was not, and they'd walk in. What number am I next? You know, because you make that money. I mean, that's how busy they are. You know, they were cranking. That kitchen was going crazy, and I got to go down south this weekend to a grand opening of a new dispensary. It was kind of cool. It was very far. It was a very far drive, not easy to get to.
Yeah.
About 2 hours and 50 minutes from here in Tilton, Illinois, over on the border of Indiana, next to Danville. And there was a new dispensary / consumption lounge / restaurant, a 3-in-1er. And it was Parkway Dispensary. Really cool concept of what they did. You walked in, and there's the front desk, and then there was 2 doors that led you in the consumption lounge, and then you go to the right door, and it would open up and look like you were in a library. And then they would open the doors, and it was like almost like a speakeasy look.
That's
and
pretty cool.
you walk into the dispensary, which is dope. Then you walk into a little. You go to the left, and you walk into a little hallway. Down a hallway, cool little mural with a cool neon that said something I don't remember. And then you walk through, and there's the restaurant, Molly's Joint. Catchy name. Can't forget it. Big. What they should do is they should like line that back wall there with just video games and make it a cool arcade-ish kind of thing too. But that's just, what do I know? I'm an arcade nerd. But cool bar. And then outside these doors was a ginormous garden. Beer garden / just and they're going to do like movie nights and probably host some cannabis functions there. It's going to be a cool spot. And then they built their cultivation on the same property. That's
cool.
being built too. So you get one-stop
cool
shop.
If it was like a drive-through cultivation,
And
wouldn't it?
Yeah, you could see it all.
And it was just glass down the center, and you could just drive through it.
That draws a
Oh my
crowd
God,
to
that
come
would
and
be
see.
amazing.
Yeah, that would be dope. So, but cool concept. So good luck, Parkway Dispensary. I saw a lot of dope people I knew in the industry down there. So it was great to see people and shake hands and smoke some joints and give some joints away. So it was fun. So good luck. Yeah. Anything else, Ms. Weedman?
No.
No.
That's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
Let's start
get
the
this
show.
Yeah.
You owe me a joint.
We're in high unison.
we have been lately. What is cannabis reclaim and why you shouldn't smoke it? Growing up as a young burner, stoner, pothead back in the late 80s, early 90s, and sometimes you didn't have money, and sometimes you didn't have any weed, and you wanted to smoke, and you would scrape your bowl out, and now that gunked resin, and you would light it and smoke it. Gross. Get you high, or you lay it out in a joint and put some flour in there too, and get you high. It tastes like shit, and but that's what kind of like the reclaim that I grew up with. So now, all weed smokers are familiar with the black gunk that builds up when smoking on a glass rig. The gunk is called reclaim, and it's resinous residue that's left behind in your bong or dab rig when smoking flower or concentrates. Most cannabis consumers avoid smoking reclaim, but some swear that it's super strong. What is weed reclaim, and is it safe to smoke? What is reclaim? Weed reclaim is leftover resin that builds up after using a bong or dab rig for a while. This happens because the resin condenses and ends up sticking to your glass rig, and depending on what you smoke, either flower or concentrates, the reclaim will have a dark yellow or brown color. This is not only because of the initial product you're smoking, but also due to the water and high temperatures that it's exposed to. So even if you're smoking on 6-star concentrates or top shelf weed, the reclaim will be of a lower quality. Reclaimed resin versus concentrates. Despite resin being used to refer to both reclaim and rosin. For example, these products are completely different. Rosin, for example, is concentrated from the resin naturally found in cannabis, which after extracted and processed contain higher terpene and cannabinoid content than regular cannabis products, which results in a more potent effect. On the other hand, dab reclaim is the leftover resin that results from, for example, smoking rosin. Reclaimed resin does not contain any terpenes and does not contain as much cannabinoids as rosin. And it contains harmful carbon byproducts of smoking, so it's not as pure as rosin or other concentrates. I'm going to read this little chart real quick. It's quick. Terpenes on reclaim is 0.1%. With rosin, the lowest end, 2.44%. THC, though, with reclaim is 50.2%. Do you want to know why, Mrs. Weedman?
Why?
Because it's been decarboxylated.
Oh.
Rosin is 6.99%. CBD is 3.3% in reclaim, 0.2% in rosin. CBN, a little higher on reclaim, is 7.5%, so it's the knockout punch for sleep. Rosin's only 0.06%. THCA with reclaim is 0.2%. Rosin is 74.51%. Do you know why, Mrs. Weedman?
Why?
Because it hasn't been lit yet. Or decarboxylated or smoked yet.
Right.
CBDA, reclaim is 0.5%. Rosin is 0.14%. So the cannabinoid total, though, for reclaim is 61.7%. 50% of that is THC. Rosin is 81.9% because you're getting the mixture of everything in there. To give you a better idea of the contents of these types of resin, the article has come up with a tab with cannabinoid contents of both reclaim and resin. We'll post this so you can read it and just have in mind that it's an approximation and the amounts may vary depending on the product. Can you smoke reclaim? So basically, you can smoke reclaim resin, but it may end up not being a very nice experience because, as you can see in the table above, it contains cannabinoids but has more CBD than rosin. So it may not be the type of effect you're looking for. So reclaimed resin still has cannabinoids, but it contains almost zero terpenes. So there'll be no smell, and in most cases will have a really bad taste. Bitter! Because terpenes are often destroyed during the first burn. Now that you know that you can smoke it and get high with reclaim, here comes the most important part. Is it safe to smoke dab reclaim? The dangers of smoking reclaim. Don't forget, it's just like tar or ash. It's a byproduct, right? So you might get a sore throat. You might get some difficulty breathing. You might even possibly get a headache. Due to these effects, it's not recommended to smoke cannabis reclaim because it requires a higher heat to burn, and it's also much harsher than rosin. For example, so smoking reclaim may end up irritating your lungs or throat. Now, it's rare for these side effects to take you to the grave. Most people don't like smoking reclaim, and when they do, it's a once a month, so you won't need to see a doctor. Yeah, like I said, when I was broken out of weed, I'd scrape my bowls and smoke that. It wasn't always great. Just have in mind that if you're experiencing frequent or severe headaches, sore throat, or troubling breathing, you should get checked just to make sure you're okay. How to collect a reclaim? When you're cleaning your bong or dab rig, it's very simple. Just take hot water and a dab tool and scrape it off, and it'll gunk up on your dab tool. It'll get stuck on there, and then you can, clean the rest of your rig out. So, and then you can use that to smoke in a bowl or put it on paper. You'll want to put it on wax paper, though, or parchment paper. That's the best place to put it. So if you need to take it off, there it is. So what to do with the reclaim? So now you've got your reclaim. You might be wondering, what the hell can I do with it? Where's the 3 things you can do with it? Smoke it in a joint. Infuse it in edibles. That's what my brother does with vaped weed, which we'll talk about in a minute. And all of the vaporized weed that we've been smoking out of the Dynavap, if we collected that, you will make stronger edibles than you'll ever make in your life. My bro has put people out when he's made his edibles.
Like an RSO,
but
right?
But he's used the reclaim, the vaporized cannabis, and turned that into an RSO and fucked. He made this root beer for a while.
Oh yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
He fucked one dude up by mistake. We warned that person not to like, and didn't know where he was coming or going.
Oh jeez. Nighty night.
Yeah.
Took a good nap.
So you can also use Reclaim to make edibles. Obviously, they won't taste very good, but it's a good way to use Reclaim because it's already decarboxylated. Just make sure you don't cook with temperatures over 177 Celsius. If you don't want to taste the harshness in your food, you can always make cannabis capsules by mixing the Reclaim with coconut oil. I know actually a lot of people that do that. I wouldn't say a lot, maybe like 4 or 5, but that's a lot for me, for people doing something like this, or any other oil of your choice. Should you smoke it? If it's your only option, consumers should never smoke dab Reclaim unless it's their only option they have, because it tastes bad and it smokes is harsh. Smoking cannabis should be a pleasant experience, and Reclaim is the opposite. Also, dab Reclaim is not the same as regular concentrates such as rosin because it doesn't contain any terpenes in it, and it's quite tedious and time-consuming to collect Reclaim. So should just wash it down the drain. Now that you know everything you need to know and should know about Reclaim, our general recommendation is that you don't smoke it. But obviously, it comes down to you, and make sure you know the dangers. And remember that cannabis should be enjoyed and taste great, and not have harsh taste on your throat and your mouth, or do everything I said it could possibly do. So how do you clean Reclaim off your bong or your rig? Use high percentage isopropyl alcohol. I usually use that and then salt, because that gives you a little rough and it gets like the hard gunky stuff off of there. Step 1, remove all the particles of the dag rib. Fill 50% of the water chamber with isopropyl or grain alcohol. 90% always works a little bit better than 70%. I know it's hard to find a 90%, but if you can only find 70%, it does work. Remember that the less alcohol you use, the faster it will evaporate, so start small and only add more if needed. Step 2, 10 to 30 minutes before shaking, let it soak. Okay, and remember, never use salts or cleaning solutions if you're planning on consuming the Reclaim. Yeah. Step 3, wait for the alcohol to evaporate. Now pour the alcohol and the Reclaim and mix it into a dish. Now place it in the well-ventilated area and wait for the alcohol to evaporate. And there's your Reclaim. So the alcohol should take 1 or 2 days to fully evaporate. And after the alcohol has evaporated, make sure to scrape the Reclaim and store it in wax paper or a silicone container. So, like I said, don't use salt. I was just talking about I use salt and alcohol to clean my bong. But if you're cleaning to save the Reclaim, just use alcohol, let it sit, scrape it, boom, 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 you're good to go. What about cannabis bud that's been run through a vaporizer? Cannabis Reclaim is oftentimes called the AVB, the already vaped bud. And while both are cannabis products, they are variously different. AVB is simply what's left in the vaporizer chamber after the cannabinoids have been extracted for inhalation. It's not considered to be Reclaim, since no smoke was ever produced, and therefore there is no tar to reclaim. As we mentioned above, we really do not recommend ever smoking or consuming it in any way. Cannabis Reclaim. But how about already vaporized bud? Well, this stuff is actually totally fine to smoke or use for making hash or edibles. What is already vaped bud exactly? When discussing weed vapes or vaporizers, the first thing that most people think about of the classic vape pen that use cartridges filled with cannabis extract of some sort. But that's not what where vaporizing and weed first started. It began with people vaping the plant itself, and already vaped bud, AVB, is exactly what you expect cannabis bud that has been run through what is known as a dry herb vaporizer. These vaporizers have a heating chamber and use their conduction or convection technology to heat the bud without combusting it. The heat vaporizers, the trichomes, those crystals that cover the buds all around and all the terpenes and cannabinoids, and allows the user to breathe in just the vapor, as Mrs. Weedman was just talking about, without any of the smoke or carcinogens. The result is a bowl filled with AVB, already vaped bud. What does AVB look and smell like? Already vaped bud looks and smells pretty different from the fresh stuff. The heating process won't burn the buds, hopefully, but it will toast it. It does smell like toast when you're done with it.
And it looks like toast.
Yeah, it does. The AVB comes out a much darker brownish color, and when it's entered the chamber. And the smell, ? Well, it smells quite different also. The aroma of AVB closely resembles a big bowl of delicious cinema popcorn, with most of the terpenes, the chemicals responsible for the smell and taste of the plant, already extracted. Is AVB safe to consume? As we have already mentioned, AVB is totally safe to consume. However, keep in mind that the potency of the bud will have decreased significantly. Depending on the temperature settings, vaporizing AVB can extract up to 70% of the cannabinoids from the bud. So even though it's safe to consume, it is not recommended as a substitute for fresh cannabis. What can you do with AVB bud? There is nothing wrong with it. And while there is a little bit weaker effect, you could still get a bit of the cannabis goodness. You can also make edibles with it, like we just talked about. There still will be around 10 to 30% of cannabinoids available in that bud. Because we've talked about smoking and how much you actually truly get. Mm-hmm. And it's anywhere between, we were reading between 40 and 70% depending on how you combust, right? Mm-hmm. Remember we read that article a while ago. So there's still cannabinoids, there's still THC. Now it's just straight THC because you decarbed it, right?
Yeah.
So what they suggest is, though, start collecting your AVB and keeping it in an airtight container until you have enough for a project. Cannabis is too precious just to throw away, and AVB can still be put to good use. So if you're vaporizing your bud, and you want to make sure and get the most out of it, don't forget to keep your AVB, but your cannabis reclaim. Nope, that can go straight into the bin. So your dab, bong reclaim, throw it away. Your AVB, which you think we should start doing that?
I don't know.
We could. It just like we could because we make edibles all the time.
Yeah.
Just save it and mix it in. Mix it in. I think it'd be fine. Yeah. So in conclusion, dab reclaim is leftover resin that drops down and sticks to your rig when smoking flower or concentrates. But just because it comes from a good quality cannabis product, it doesn't mean it's good for you. The dab reclaim may end up being harmful, so make sure to take proper precautions and see a doctor if you experience harmful side effects for a prolonged time. If you have been collecting reclaim because you can't fin hash or rosin where you live, make sure to read blogs and go on the internet and do all your reading about it and how to make water hash or dry sift and rosin at home. There's plenty of videos out there on how to do it. And remember, a huge part of hash making is to start with the right genetics. So in case you don't know what to grow, make sure you take a look at other breeders and what they're using and ask questions. So that's it. That's a good article. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So will CBDs cause me to fail a drug test?
Yeah. Well, people swear they were only using 100% cannabidiol, CBD, yet failed their drug tests. Urine screenings don't check for CBD. So how can using this cannabis compound get you in trouble? Well, CBD will not cause a false positive, says Stephen Dudley, a clinical toxicologist and director of the Arizona Poison and Drug Information Center. He said, when people who use CBD products test positive for a marijuana drug test, it's linked to one thing: contamination with THC. Many CBD companies tell you their products contain small amounts of tetrahydrocannabinol, THC, the active ingredient in marijuana that gets you high. But according to Dudley, mislabeling is a big problem. As a result, THC might be in 100% CBD oil or other CBD products labeled as THC-free. In fact, that's one reason CBD is not recommended if you are pregnant or breastfeeding. High doses have caused harm to developing fetuses in animal studies. The health effects of CBD in an unborn human baby is not known. As CBD grows in popularity, experts warn that frequent use may affect workplace drug testing for marijuana use. And while there's no guarantee you can use a CBD product and pass a drug test, there's something to be said for responsible use, Dudley says. There are steps you can take to lessen your exposure to THC. But first, let's dive into the sometimes confusing world of cannabis. So what's the difference between CBD, THC, marijuana, and hemp? Cannabidiol, which is CBD, is a natural compound found in cannabis, including marijuana and hemp. There's some evidence CBD may ease pain, anxiety, insomnia, and other health problems, but scientists are still researching the medical benefits of this cannabinoid. Right now, there's only one FDA-approved CBD drug. It's a tightly controlled prescription medication used to treat rare types of seizures. But unregulated CBD products are widely available, from online sellers and local dispensaries to gas stations and grocery stores. Marijuana contains CBD, but most CBD products come from hemp. Legally speaking, hemp is any part of a cannabis plant with less than 0.3% delta 9 tetrahydrocannabinol, generally referred to as THC. But it's not 0.0%, so there can be trace amounts of THC in many CBD products made from hemp. High amounts of THC, delta 9 THC that is, can alter your mind and reflexes. But you can think of CBD more like you would ibuprofen. So not having all these mind-altering issues, right? CBD is not psychoactive, and that's its main selling point, Dudley says. And there is some evidence out there for its role in the inflammatory pathway and the pain process pathway, which is one of the main reasons people use it. So then how can using CBD make you fail a drug test? Well, companies can sell CBD products with little to no THC. The problem is that you may not be able to trust that the ingredients listed on the packaging are what's in the product. So think of it like vitamins, right? There's room for error in vitamins because they're not FDA approved. There's a lack of consistency, let's just say. Studies show that CBD products sold online and in stores aren't labeled accurately. While some have more or less CBD than advertised, what sets off alarm bells for experts is that some products contain THC even while labeled THC-free. You should note that even small amounts of legal THC can be a problem. While you're unlikely to fail a drug test after a single use, you may be more likely to test positive if you use CBD products daily, for weeks or months at a time, or at high doses. Maybe the instructions say to use it 1 or 3 times a day, but a person starts using it 6 times a day, says Matthew D. Krasowski, MD, PhD, chair of the College of American Pathologist Toxicology Committee.
Yeah,
it's a big title.
That is a very big title.
He says, even though it's not a huge amount of THC with each dose, it does accumulate. Another thing to know is that urine drug tests check for THC metabolites, molecules that float around in the body after you break down a drug. A positive test shows that THC was in your body at some point, but it doesn't say anything about how THC got there. THC metabolites can build up over time and stick around in your body for quite a while. How long you test positive depends on how much and how often you use THC. Its metabolites commonly show up in urine tests for days to a week after a single exposure. If you use THC products often, it's definitely possible to test positive for 2 to 3 weeks, Krasowski says. So how do you avoid failing a THC drug test while using CBD? Well, experts agree the safest choice is to stop using CBD products, at least close to your urine screening. Though not a guarantee, it's a good idea to abstain for at least 30 days before your drug test. Other steps you can take include buy THC-free products. Look for terms like broad spectrum, THC-free, CBD isolate, or 100% CBD. Avoid anything labeled full spectrum, which is more likely to have trace amounts of THC. Though, with product accuracy, you're really rolling the dice, Dudley says. Until there are forced regulations, you can't be sure what you're getting. You can check for a certificate of analysis, a COA, and verify that an accredited third-party lab tested the product you want to try. These labs analyze CBD products for high levels of THC and other cannabinoids and should have no link to the manufacturer. The COA can be good, but it's only reflecting what the manufacturer asks the testing laboratory to do, Krasowski says. And that can be misleading or presented in a way that's not helpful to consumers. Whether that's on purpose or sloppy is hard to say. You can try emailing the CBD company if you find the COA but you still don't understand the results. You can shop with a licensed dispensary. These folks may may be more likely than non-licensed sellers to test the ingredients in their products and be honest with you about the results. Why? Because they run the risk of losing their license and a ton of money if they mislead customers, Dudley says. I'm not saying there aren't good manufacturers out there, but it certainly is the Wild West when you look at the CBD market overall, he says. And I think dispensaries are probably the ones who are doing the best job regulating their products because they have the most to lose. After learning all of this, you should be able to determine if using CBD is worth the risk. Weigh the pros and cons of taking an unregulated supplement and talk to your doctor about why you're using CBD in the first place and consider the consequences of a failed drug test. If you use CBD or want to in the future, ask yourself the following. Do you get drug tested regularly for work? Will you need to apply for a new job soon? Do you have personal or secondhand exposure to marijuana? Are you pregnant or live in a state where newborns are tested for THC? Are you on probation? Does your parole officer know that you use CBD? Will a positive THC test affect workers' comp if you're injured on the job? If you use CBD and fail a drug test, there are ways to take a closer look at the results. For example, your employer or parole officer could order a follow-up lab test to measure the ratio of CBD to THC, which gives more information than a positive-negative urine drug screen. But urine tests are fast and cheap, and you may not get a second chance. So even though you can prove your innocence, quote unquote, you may unfairly face the consequences of a failed drug screen, Dudley says. Prevention really is the key. Yep.
Well, just be careful.
Yeah. Well, I think that, there's a lot of, there really is a lot of confusion about hemp, about CBD, about THC, about Delta 9, 10, 8. There's a lot of confusion
11.
for a lot of people.
HHC.
All of it. And people just aren't realizing when they're buying. Some people may flat out know, and it's just a budgetary issue, and they think the product is fine. But other people just really don't know that when they're buying from a gas station or a head shop that is selling hemp flower, buds, they don't understand that what they're buying, right?
We've been saying
There's
this for a
so
while.
much confusion.
Yeah. So just make sure you're getting it from a reputable source.
Yeah. I mean, really, if your livelihood depends on you, if your livelihood could be ruined because of smoking or consuming, it is a big risk.
For jobs that are still testing.
If you're getting 100% hemp at a dispensary, there's gonna still be that
could
potential
possibly
0.3%.
be that trace. Yeah.
That's
and
that's a
if
tough
your job
call.
is still drug testing, it's just something you just got to watch out, which is just total bullshit.
But if your job isn't testing, have at it.
We've talked about mixing two different strains on the show before, and it was a big favorite for Polly and Doveboy, but we never really read articles about it and information
cocktail.
about it. Yeah, a little salad mixture, Can you mix two different cannabis strains together and smoke it? What happens to your high? Is mixing different cannabis strains together in a joint or bowl a good idea? I would like to smoke some more weed too.
Right now? You want
light
this?
that up. Yeah.
Okay.
While you've likely experienced smoking from a pipe or a bowl with traces of different weed strains, combining two strains isn't typically the first choice for most people. The question is, can you deliberately craft distinct highs by combining different cannabis strains and experimenting like a scientist? Some individuals believe it's possible, others remain skeptical. I remember Doveboy and Paulie would do it, and they would just sit down here and watch anime and not move for like 2-3 hours.
Yeah.
Remember that? And their favorite mixture was Vanilla Kush and Skywalker OG. Blending different strains that can enhance the renowned entourage effects of cannabis. This effect occurs when various components of cannabis synergy to create a potent high, surpassing the effects of consuming a single cannabinoid in isolation. The entourage effect leads to many to argue that the using just one cannabinoid for relaxations are therapeutic. What happens when you combine two cannabis strains isn't as effective as consuming the entire plant. Thanks, Mrs. Weedman. Mm-hmm. I'm going to hit this real quick, everybody. Also including its terpenes. If you're pursuing truly unique effects, mixing two strains can deliver just that, for better or worse. Nevertheless, it's worth noting that combining strains isn't overly complex. while the outcome might range from a powerful high to one that tucks you in for the night. Yeah. Especially when you've acquired high-quality cannabis, there's generally no reason to anticipate adverse effects. The entourage effect, while further research is essential, the existing knowledge suggests that when you blend specific cannabinoids and terpenes tailored to your body's needs, it can result in a synergistic phenomenon known as the entourage effect. The effect can offer a more complex cannabis experience compared to consuming isolated cannabinoids such as THC or CBD. The phenomenon is rooted in the fact that each of us possess our internal endocannabinoid system, with the prefix endo indicating its presence within the body. By bleeding two or more varieties of cannabis, you expand your body and endocannabinoid system exposure to a broad array of cannabinoids and terpenes. In doing so, you potentially unlock the health benefits associated with these additional compounds. One more hit. Thank you, Mrs. Weedman. As an example, suppose potent strain yields unwanted effects when consumed. Blending it with a strain featuring, wow, that was a big hit. Still like just smoke pouring out of my mouth. Lower THC levels and elevated CBD content can elevate some of these undesirable outcomes. CBD achieves this by diminishing THC's tendency to bind strongly to the cannabinoid receptors with our endocannabinoid system, thereby assisting in reducing any adverse consequences might arise from high THC cannabis. This is just one example of how the interplay between cannabinoids and terpenes with our ECS significantly influences the potency and effects of various cannabis strains. Consequently, this variation is why two individuals consuming the same strain may encounter distinctly divergent effects. So mixing strains to create a mix of weed strains, often called a weed salad, the simplest approach is to grind cannabis flower and combine the two chosen strains. From there, various options open, including smoking, vaporizing, or crafting your canna butter. When I make canna butter, I probably usually mix like 2 or 3 strains because it's a collection of stuff that I've grown and saved and grown and saved. Unless you just want that one, but it's usually a mixture nowadays. 2 or 3 strains, maybe sometimes 4 in our canna butter, and nobody's complained about it yet. So what you want to kind of do is mix weed with similar scents, maybe similar terpene blends, or you just want to go brazy and you want to fucking mix 2 fucking odd strains, all over the place. So mix complement flavors. For instance, consider combining strains with a tea-like flavor with another boasting of lemon haze profile. This combination can deliver a refreshing and enjoyable session. Mix strains with similar effects. This tip may be important to all. A practical approach is to blending cannabis strains is to consider how each strain influences your mood and sensations. For instance, if you acquire a strain that imparts an invigorating and mentally uplifting high but induces a slight sense of anxiety, you could mitigate any adverse effects by combining it with more soothing strain. Conversely, you come across a strain that delivers a relaxing full body effect but tends to induce couch lock. Mix it with a strain that offers a gentle, uplifting sensation to counteract the couch lock effect. Remember our buddy Joliet Nick, J-Town Nick? Mm-hmm. He gave us that 6-strain joint. We smoked it during the show, and we were fucked up. It was I wasn't complaining, but it was during the show. Thanks, J-Town Nick. A helpful guideline to remember is to refrain from mixing strains at opposite ends of the spectrum. And a highly energizing and euphoric strain may not harmonize well with one that provides intense full body relaxation. So conclusion, before embarking on your strain mixing journey, consider the vital question. Are you aiming for an indica-like relaxation without an instant knockout? If so, consider pairing an indica strain with a hybrid that can elevate your high into a more enjoyable yet tranquil experience. Lastly, exercise caution when combining 2 potent strains. Mixing 2 strains introduces you to an entirely novel experience. One that has the potential to yield a new, unfavorable high. The kind where you feel both hyperactive and simultaneously inclined to sleep for extended periods. Were you walking and sleeping at the same time? Begin with measured approach. And don't hesitate to seek guidance at your dispensary. Ultimately, the goal is to have an enjoyable time and explore new horizons. Just look at your strain blends, when you're doing it. I think why and Dog Boy liked Vanilla Kush and Skywalker OG so much because it had the same kind of effects. Because we smoked a lot of both of them individually too, and they mixed a few different ones, but that was their favorite. So try it out, have some fun. The 5 best reasons not to legalize marijuana, and why are they so fucking dumb?
Well, this past week, the federal government finally made some progress on rescheduling cannabis. As most people know, cannabis is currently a Schedule 1 narcotic, which is insane. Schedule 1 is supposed to be reserved for the most wretched things you could consume, like crack cocaine and whatever is in the center of a Twinkie. Ooh, we don't know. Last Wednesday, the DHS recommended that marijuana be rescheduled to Schedule 3. This would obviously be helpful both to consumers and the cannabis industry itself, but it still falls short of complete legalization, which is actually the morally and logically correct policy. Why the hesitancy? Are there arguments against legalization? Yes. Are they good ones? That's an easy no. The arguments against fully legalizing cannabis are dumb, each one dumber than the argument before it, but not as dumb as the argument to follow. And that's true no matter what order you put them in. I'm going to position and disprove the top 5 best arguments for continuing prohibition. It's kind of like a David Letterman top 10 list written by a lazy person. I also acknowledge that there are more than 5 arguments that the prohibitionists make. However, if I dipped much below 5, I'd be getting into the realm of the insane. So here they are. The top 5 best and dumbest arguments against legalization. 1. Pot is bad for you. Every so often, we're treated to an exciting treat by some drug warrior who breathlessly reports on a new study that says that weed causes your liver to explode, or that infants dipped in hash oil rarely grow up to win the Nobel Peace Prize. Let's pretend for a moment that someone can prove that weed is somehow harmful to your health. It would not be alone. Cigarettes kill 1,100 Americans per day in horrific ways. Approximately 88,000 people die each year from alcohol abuse. Sugary drinks kill over 184,000 Americans annually, and eating Hot Pockets kills more people each week than were killed in the entire Vietnam War, both sides. Clearly, something being bad for you or unhealthy has not historically been a reason to make the people who consume it criminals. In other words, weed could be both unhealthy and legal, like many, many other products. I mean, hello. Of course, this assumes that weed actually is unhealthy, but the number of Americans who die directly from weed each year is 0. Ganja has no lethal dose. Further, many of the studies showing adverse effects on kids assume what they call chronic use. This means that they are smoking herb multiple times every single day. How do you think a 12-year-old would do consuming multiple shots of vodka every day? Yet alcohol is still legal. So, this argument clearly does not bear scrutiny. 2. Skunk, or weed, is a getaway drug. It's not.
Not getaway.
It's just not.
Gateway.
Yeah. Oh, I said getaway
Gateway.
drug. It's a getaway drug.
It's a gateway. Weed is a gateway
I thought I
drug.
was doing so good with my reading. Sorry. Weed is a gateway drug. No, it's not.
We just talked about
It's
this
just not.
on the last episode.
So here's a quick, true, funny story. When I was pushing my medical bill in Pennsylvania, not me, the author, I had the opportunity to meet with then Governor Corbett about it. I got the feeling I was not his favorite senator by the way he scrunched up his nose like he smelled something vile whenever he saw me. Although, to be fair, my patchouli-scented cologne probably didn't help. In any event, he said he was opposed to the medical marijuana because it was a gateway drug and would lead to increased opioid use. So I said, Governor, you are saying that if we prescribe marijuana, it might lead people down the path to using opioids? So we're just going to prescribe opioids instead and just skip the gateway? He nodded his head yes. His chief of staff asked me if anyone smelled patchouli, and the meeting was over. Jerks. Even in the context of recreational cannabis, the evidence of it being a gateway drug is non existent. The argument that prohibitions make is that most people who use heroin had previously used weed, which is probably true, but definitely meaningless.
See, it proves our point from the last episode.
Those same heroin users also previously drank milk, yet nobody is making milk a Schedule 1 narcotic. The right way to analyze weed is not to see how many heroin users previously consumed it, but how many users went on to use heroin, which is under 4%. If you are looking for gateway drugs, I'd suggest checking out tobacco and alcohol. The Baker Institute did a 40-year study. Alcohol users were far more likely than weed consumers to use heavily, and alcohol was the substance most commonly used in the progression of substance abuse. So, we have another bad argument. Go figure. 3. Cannabis is much more powerful than it used to be. Well, I'd say that someone smoked some super powerful weed and came up with this lame argument. First, like alcohol, there is a continuum of potency with weed. You can drink beer or you can drink grain alcohol. And the thing is, you usually know what it is that you're drinking and moderate your drinking accordingly. People chug a beer, but nobody, after that one time as a freshman in college, chugs grain alcohol. If booze is too weak, you consume more of it. It's a bit strong, you consume less. The result is the same. In fact, the wide range of potency between strains of weed is actually an argument for legalization, since we should want people to know the potency of what they are about to consume, and that knowledge is far more likely to be available on the label from a licensed dispensary than from your buddy who sold you a dime bag. 4. We don't need to legalize another intoxicant. Actually, on this one, they're right. Only a certain number of intoxicants should be legal at a time, and that number is 3. Alcohol, nicotine, and caffeine. Done. Everyone else should just go to jail. I don't know what he means about that one, but that's a little rough. 5. People in the cannabis industry want to make money. This may win as the stupidest argument of them all. It is the main argument of the leading pro-prohibitionist organization known as Smart Approaches to Marijuana. Think of SAM, their acronym, as if the movie Reefer Madness became a nonprofit. This organization exists to keep the pipelines to prison open and free from obstruction. They argue that big marijuana is going to come in and open up a bunch of dispensaries for profit, and they're going to get gobs of money off of the sale of weed to our poor, unsuspecting children. Of course, this would make the weed industry exactly like the alcohol and tobacco industries. Anyone ever heard of Budweiser or Philip Morris? But beyond that, it would make weed the same as literally every industry in America. Think of Big Frisbee, or Big Itch Cream, or Big Hot Pocket. The desire of entrepreneurs to make money is no reason to make a product illegal and its users criminals. The fact that these are the leading arguments against ending prohibition shows just how paltry of a case they can make. It's time to end the 85-year catastrophe and legalize weed once and for all.
I'm going to go to that number 4 real quick.
Yeah.
So what he meant, or the writer meant, was, I'll read it again. Actually, on this one, they're right. This was, we don't need to legalize another intoxicant.
Mm-hmm. He's saying there should only be 3 at a time.
No, here. Only a certain number of intoxicants should be legal at a time, and the number is 3.
Mm-hmm.
Alcohol, nicotine, and caffeine, done. Everyone else goes to jail. Not what he's saying, what has been done, what is legalized. Those 3 are legalized, and they're intoxicants. All 3 of them are.
Right.
And that's it. All you get is 3. Done. Everyone else goes to jail. If you sold cannabis, if you sold heroin, if you sold psychedelics, if you sold, there's no room. They only allowed 3. The government.
Ah.
Does that make sense? Okay. You got it?
Yep.
All right. Hope everybody else does too. Tomorrow, there's going to be a vote, finally, on the Safe Banking Act in the Senate. Finally. Holy smokes.
Good.
And they're saying, some people are saying that it may have a good chance to pass. And what's good about that is because we need the banks to basically help all
businesses operate.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. So hopefully this passes. And with that being said, there's a ton of banks that I read an article today. I think I might even talk about it. That there's already been a ton of banks working with cannabis, but now 850 are ready to go. If the Safe Banking Act tomorrow passes,
no corporate banks really that will take any.
But if it get
plant-touching business,
I mean, if they pass this banking act tomorrow, it's going to be a fucking mass fucking craziness.
Game changer.
Yeah. Florida campaign to legalize medical cannabis marijuana home cultivation hopes to gather 1 million signatures at dispensaries by January. Yo, this is even bigger than you guys going wreck. Florida, if you get home cultivation, your whole world is going to change. Take it for somebody who does it. New federal data shows record number of banks working with marijuana businesses as Senate schedules to vote on the reform bill tomorrow. See, didn't I just say that? 773 to 807 in the first quarter going into the prior quarter. So FinChin first started tracking these numbers in 2014. 812 banks total and credit unions reportedly actively working with marijuana companies in the second quarter of 2023 fiscal year, a record high. And if it passes tomorrow, it's going to be crazy how much money might possibly be flowing to cannabis businesses and then going to the banks because of all that cash. So, yeah, it's going to be quite interesting. Cannabis industry, as I said it for a while now, will save everything one day. So, Massachusetts Cannabis Control Commission Chair Shannon O'Brien has been suspended. Also, they hired basically a cannabis czar in Minnesota to run the whole cannabis thing, and they fired her within 8 hours because they found out at her store she was selling hemp illegally.
Oh, Jesus.
Hemp.
Why?
So they fired her.
Gosh.
Terrible. Maine's medical cannabis sector faces overhaul amid regulatory changes and record sales. Maine, don't fuck it up. 2023 Louisiana cannabis policy voter guide released by Marijuana Policy Project. Man, I'm shocked. If Louisiana goes wreck and during the Mardi Gras and all the fun times, Jazz Fest, oh my God, the streets are going to be up in smoke. Some New York cannabis farmers are already exiting the market. Man, New York, I said this yesterday on the grow. I'm going to say, you really fucked this up. I mean, just more than 500,000 pounds of cannabis from last year's harvest is done. The top 15 to 20% are doing okay. Of the 278 farmers, everyone else has at least another job or about to just fold it out. Yeah, you really fucked it up. Pennsylvania Senate passes bill allowing more medical marijuana growers to sell directly to patients. That's crazy. They can just sell, right? They can bypass a dispensary. Crazy. So the Pennsylvania Senate last Wednesday passed a bill that would allow all the state's medical marijuana growers and processors to sell their products directly to patients, with several senators speculating that the bill could and should become a vehicle for further opening up the Commonwealth's marijuana laws. Bill 773, which won wide bipartisan approval 44-3. Licensed cannabis grower and processors in Pennsylvania also will be issued a dispensary permits, allowing them to retail their products directly to medical marijuana patients. That's good for the cultivator, but terrible for the dispensaries.
Yeah.
So it's going to be weird. So they need to go wreck. Wisconsin, I posted this. Marijuana legalization may be coming soon thanks to a new bill. Democratic lawmakers in Wisconsin have introduced a bill to legalize adult-use cannabis, and the Senate Minority Leader announced plans to file the bill surrounded by mature plants at the local hemp farm. The bill would legalize possession up to 5 ounces of cannabis for adults 21 and over, then the 2 ounces next door in Minnesota. Home grow up to 12 plants could be also permitted. A 10% excise tax would be applied to all retail lounge purchases, while cultivators would be also subject to a 15% tax upon wholesale transfer of their bud. That's actually not that bad, depending on how much other taxes they add to it. They're saying that Wisconsin is saying that they're tired of losing all this money to the other states. But I like 12 plants. That's pretty fucking good. You can home grow up to 12 plants. And they're throwing it out that Minnesota only allows 8. But a 10% excise tax would be applied to all retail and lounge purchases. So they're talking about even doing lounges in the bill. This is great. I hope it happens. Because they said Wisconsin residents spent approximately $121 million on legal cannabis in Illinois in 2022 alone. So they're not even including Michigan in that, because some people live up in Door County and go over to Michigan, which is right there. There's one right on the border there. And then Minnesota, now people along the border of Minnesota are going to be going right there.
Right.
So, but it's only saying a matter of time before America's Dairyland takes steps forward toward reform. Let's go, man, Wisconsin. If you did that like soon, I might like go hang out and move up there. For 12 plants, and you don't need your med card to do it?
Right.
Shit. Marijuana should be reclassified to reflect its medical potential, says American Council of Cannabis Medicine. Well, good for you. Make it happen. From underground to mainstream, just a bunch of brands and what's been going on with the birth of cannabis in 1996 when it got legalized medical in California, all the way to 2010 and what's happened with these early brands were often small-scale operations from 96 to 2010, primarily on providing medical relief to patients. The rise of recreational cannabis, though, from 2010 to 2020, the turning point of cannabis brands came with gradual legalization of recreational cannabis across many states and countries. This shift opened up new opportunities and challenges for brands looking to appeal to the broader, more diverse audience. According to a report, the legal cannabis market in North America reached $10.4 billion in 2018, a 31% increase from previous year. During a period, branding became crucial for attracting consumers. Brands invested heavily in product development, packaging, and marketing to stand out amongst the crowd. Cannabis-infused edibles, beverages, vape products gained popularity. Brands like MedMen Cookies and Canopy Growth made headlines. That was from 2010 to 2020. Now, 2023, the cannabis branding landscape today. Fast forward to 2023, and the cannabis branding landscape has evolved significantly with more states legalizing cannabis. The industry, and some countries, the industry has matured, leading to greater diversity in products and brands. A recent survey conducted by BDS and Alex found that 42% of cannabis consumers in legalized states consider branding and product presentation when making purchases decisions. Ew. If that's how you make decisions on branding and product presentation, man, in a lot of your states you can't even look at the weed. So if you were saying that product presentation mean you get to look at the weed and pick your nugs out, then I'd be like, bless you, you're great. Wherever state you're in, that's amazing. But if you're looking at the branding, like there's a lot of people out there that make a lot more money than I do and a lot smarter than me when it comes to marketing and getting you to fucking come and buy their product on a look of the packaging. And they know how to they do these research and studies and they get you because of what the branding looks like, not what the product and quality is about. That's the one thing that sucks about Illinois. You can't look at the product till you get it home. And I've gotten some fucking shit. And I've gotten home and I looked at the buds and I was disappointed. Mm-hmm. You know? And that's because you can't look at the product. Today's consumers have access to a wide variety of products, from artisanal craft strains to professionally produced cannabis-infused chocolates. Brands are using innovative marketing techniques, emphasizing sustainability. Make sure you look into that. Make sure they're doing what they say they're doing when it comes to sustainability. And targeting niche markets to differentiate themselves. So, just know the future of cannabis brands as cannabis continues to gain acceptance globally. The future of cannabis brands appears promising. In the coming years, you can expect to see even more specialization with brands catering to specific demographics and preferences. The rise of low-dose and microdose products for those seeking a milder experience is just one example of the trend. It's going to be, by 2025, $50 billion industry. You don't think they're spending money now to learn what you like? You played yourself if you thought differently on that one. This is a good article by High Times. Weed isn't legal if you can't smoke it.
Well, Jim Devine attempts to figure out why cannabis regulators hate the lower classes that can't afford a home to smoke in legally. This is an interesting article.
Very.
One of the worst things happening during this wave of cannabis reform across America is the poor being left on the beach without a mechanism to legally smoke a little weed. The biggest factors contributing to this are rare. I just got so distracted. Did it start raining?
It started raining. Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
Sounds beautiful. I know.
I didn't know
Distracting.
what I
Also,
was
I saw you
hearing.
until you look. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, it's
I'm
raining.
really stoned.
You're really
I
stoned.
thought the dog is down here sitting on like her little cooling mat. I thought she was having like, you know, when dogs have a dream and their paws are moving.
Yeah.
And I couldn't continue reading. Okay, I'm back. Focus. Whew. Okay, America. The biggest problem is that the poor are being left without a place to legally smoke. Okay, the biggest factors contributing to this are bans on consumption anywhere but a private residence, and sometimes you can't consume in a multi-unit building even if you own the whole thing and required incoming tenants to be cool with it. A bit over 65% of Americans own a home. So, from a certain school of thought, one could certainly argue that the data means cannabis is only legal for 65% of Americans. Interesting perspective. How did we get here? Well, shitty policymaking, of course. I put the lack of legal consumption right up there with our other biggest problems the cannabis market has faced post-legalization. Others include how screwed up equity programs seem to be in every state, leading to the programs being scapegoated and not the people who screwed them up. Another mega factor, permit stacking in California. That is what created mega farms 5 years early. One of the main guys that lobbied for that crashed and burned out of the industry because he sucked at growing weed. So in the end, literally everyone lost, even the greedy fucker. So that's the scale of the problem for me. I put it up there with the worst cannabis has to offer. The most immediate remedy to provide legal access to consumption is lounges. Any legalization plan moving forward that doesn't accommodate some type of social use cannabis business where you can puff with your friends is garbage. Add to how much more difficult it's getting for the middle class and lower income communities in recreational states to even own a home. And one might say cannabis is getting less and less legal depending on your income bracket. Get that? So if you're lower class, lower middle class, and you are renting somewhere, if you're living in a condo or a townhome that has an association and they have rules and you cannot consume cannabis in your home, where are you supposed to consume it? So even though it's legal, it's illegal because you can't consume it anywhere. It's very interesting.
You can come smoke at my house if you need to.
You have to you'd have to have a friend where you can go hang out or a lounge. The obvious argument against my disdain is that people should just smoke in their yard or figure out a place if it's not cool at home. But 99% of the time, they aren't supposed to smoke weed wherever they end up. I think the general argument is that in a society where cannabis is legal, there should be at least some way or mechanism for people to consume it. And we aren't talking about wolfing down some distillate gummies. Fake lounges are also a problem now. If you can't burn down some weed, it's not a lounge. I've recently seen a wave of vapor-only lounges opening up. I mean, yeah, let's sit in chairs and hit vape pens kind of shit. Or maybe you want to have a 10 milligram edible and sit on the couch while you wait for it to kick in. I'm offended just explaining these situations. One of the things adding salt to the wound, how social of an experience cannabis can be when the situation is curated properly. There are a few places pulling it off in America. Shout outs to West Hollywood for real consistent social experiences, more akin to a bar with weed than a sesh. Europe has been doing great. Even Bangkok is pulling it off well. It makes it that much crazier that even in the birthplace of cannabis reform, California, the lounge scene is garbage. It provides no support to the communities that actually need it, and the lounges we have seen tend to be in higher income communities where they're serving less need than they would in places you can't even puff. In the end, the thing that will probably change the game is regulators realizing the dollars lost to underground cannabis social events. Even when they do start to give people a little room, though, regulators tug the chain back. This is the case in Sacramento right now. The city's flagship legal social use space is dealing with new pressure from the city. It's one of the better facilities the state has seen in some time, and they were playing by the rules. If people like that can't make lounges a reality, how are lower income people ever supposed to smoke together legally? Adding to the madness of the lack of places we can smoke weed together are over 13,000 Americans that die every year in car crashes that involve alcohol. When you get too stoned, you're too lazy to drive until you're not too stoned anymore.
That's like
Yeah.
facts.
There is no real logic that justifies a bunch of people getting shit-faced and driving home. The most dangerous part of having weed in your system or vehicle is getting caught with it in many cities and towns. So just remember, anyone who's trying to prevent consumption lounges is trying to prevent legal consumption for the poor.
That was a good article.
Yeah.
Makes you think.
Yeah.
International news, Canadian cannabis sales pick up strongly in July. What'd they do? $437.7 million, which fell 1.4% on a day basis, but we're up 13.6% from the year ago. So it's a lot of money. Good for you, Canada. And then Denmark has destroyed more than 145,000 kilograms of cannabis. Denmark, my gosh. You allow it in the coffee shops. Just over 300 permits have been issued for the destruction of that much. It's actually 320,000 pounds of cannabis. The Danish Parliament Health Committee said in a reply to Parliament inquiry early this year. That's a lot of weed.
Yeah.
Sheep. Little sheep.
Yeah.
Troublemakers, though.
They're
Just
hungry.
Just troublemakers.
Trouble.
Tell us about those sheep.
Yes. Hungry sheep devoured over 600 pounds of cannabis after invading a greenhouse. Crazy little sheep. 600 pounds. A flock of sheep have found themselves enjoying a slightly different diet this week after they devoured more than 600 pounds of cannabis. The herd of unsuspecting herbivores were looking to satisfy their munchies when they inadvertently chomped down on a hefty stash of medical cannabis growing in a nearby greenhouse. Near the town of Almiros, Greece, a greenhouse cultivating therapeutic marijuana became an unexpected diner for the animals as they grappled with the aftermath of Storm Daniel. The storm resulted in Europe's highest ever monthly precipitation. Relentless rain wreaked havoc across the central region, combining torrential downpours with landslides, crumbling roads and bridges, and crippling vital water supplies. While looking to avoid flooding, the herd of sheep sought refuge in the greenhouse and simultaneously helped themselves to over 600 pounds of the crop.
Good for them.
The bewildered shepherd watched as his flock began to exhibit what he called strange behavior. A Greek news outlet quoted Yannis Baronis, owner of the farm, who told a local radio producer, "They found green stuff to eat, and the sheep were just jumping higher than goats," which never happens. In 2017, the Greek government legalized the use of cannabis for medical purposes. And in 2023, Greece inaugurated its first ever medicinal cannabis production plant. The cultivation of cannabis for medical use has presented much needed economic opportunities for the country. Companies have begun making substantial investments into the country. Companies have been making substantial investments into the country. Did I say that right?
Twice.
All right. Hey, we're all on our toes here. Greek government officials are keen to reap the potential economic benefits, putting into place a regulatory framework for the cultivation, processing, and export of medicinal cannabis. Cannabis has been seen as a solution to some of the challenges facing Greek farmers who have seen a drop in profit margins on traditional agricultural products in recent years. Meanwhile, some scientists have even tested out feeding animals.
Are you all right?
I'm high. Meanwhile, some scientists have even tested out feeding animals cannabis to see what happens. In 2022, dairy cows that were fed a diet containing industrial hemp experienced several physical and behavioral changes, including increased yawning, salivation, and unsteady movements. And so then I have to say that they were then saying, "Move over, hey. Give me that weed." That's so stupid. Move over.
I now know you are really high.
I'm really high.
Yeah, you're really high.
I'm high. The yeet's got me.
The yeet.
It's got me.
This is what you actually sounded like for a second. Okay, you ready?
Was I?
One more time. One more time.
That's what I felt like.
That's what it sounded like. Big baka booga, big baka booga. Oh shit!
Like, am I speaking? I don't know. Am I?
New video game Modern Warfare 3 that will let you kill opponents with weed. That's awesome. Coming out November 10th, apparently lets you murder people with marijuana. The detail was revealed in the entertainment
That's
software.
bad. You don't want
Hold
that.
on. Rating board decision for making the first-person shooter mature, and it seems like the natural evolution to smoke rings. The game includes a finishing move in which marijuana smoke from a bong can be forced into your opponent's face. And playing states, badges, banners, and character outfits also depict cannabis or smoking figures. I think it's great. They're letting fucking weed finally in a video game like a Modern Warfare, which is very popular. Call of Duty.
No, but
huge.
I wish it was positive. Like you could
It
throw
is.
like
Well,
weed,
it's
weed Powerball.
Well, it's basically blowing smoke rings, and you're killing them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a game. Just a
I
video
know,
game.
I know. But
And
it's,
every stoner that plays that,
negative.
like myself, burner or pothead,
you'll think it's great.
it's gonna think the fucking
I'm
greatest
gonna
thing ever.
Puff your face up. Take that.
Puff, puffing away. Cheech and Chong launched a Dreams dispensary partnership in New Mexico. Good for them. I mean, their movies were great in the 70s and they're still great today. Cult classic. And they've been arrested for weed. They fight for weed every day. Good for them. Making some money as their time winds down. Probably making more money now than they ever had in their whole entire life
Right?
due to weed.
It's about, yeah, it's good for them.
Good for them. So, Mrs. Weedman,
Mr. Weedman.
that's the end of the show.
Yeah.
You got anything else to say?
I was gonna say let's light that joint back up.
Oh, I thought you were saying you're ready for a snack.
Oh yeah, I'm ready for snacks. Snack time.
Oh shit! One last thing though, if sometimes I say the F word a lot, fucking,
me too.
a lot, and sometimes I say it a little too much. It all depends on how high I am. So if you're offended by the F word, watch Stan Lee's cartoon anime. His last like really thing he did for himself when he told everybody that he wanted the word fuck to be like used as an everyday word because you could be using it in every sentence. So watch that on YouTube. It's pretty great, and you'll understand why I probably use the word that word a little bit too much. But if you're offended by it, I apologize. But if you're not offended by it, I'll keep on fucking saying it. So
Fuck yeah.
so we're very unconventional in this show, and we do what we do. Hopefully you like it and you keep on listening. But yes, I do use the F-bomb a lot, and just where I'm from and who I am. And, you know, I apologize if you're offended, but hopefully you stick with it and with us. So as that always says, we love you out there. Be kind to one another. Have a great rest of your week, all. Go into living life each and every day with just love and care in your heart. And just be kind to one another, and life we'll be all good. Just a little kindness, you know? Help somebody you love every day, right?
That's right.
As Paulie always says, smoke smart. Puff, puff, and away.
Puff, puff, pass.
Check out our cannabis lifestyle brand online at 8decades.com. Our custom smokes and accessories are perfect for your coffee table, bedroom nightstand, or kitchen counter. They're designed for you to show them off. The Canna community is also loving our hemp and cotton blend t-shirts, sweatshirts, scarves, and hats, finished off with our 8 Decades logo. We've got some awesome, long-lasting goods that will be your favorite for years to come. 8 Decades, because a 9th decade of cannabis prohibition isn't acceptable. 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 Acceptable.